Let's go now to the author of Who's Counting? How Fraudsters and Bureaucrats Put Your Vote at Risk. Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Hans von Spakovsky. Hans, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's talk about the 2020 election, the election going forward, and the bills that are being passed right now in the House. Obviously, the Democrats in Congress are saying that H.R. 1 has election integrity in it, and they're enfranchising all Americans, and that this is the greatest thing that has ever happened to our electoral system. Can you break down the fallacies in this piece of legislation?
In fact, H.R. 1 is the exact opposite of all that. Take all the problems we encountered in the 2020 election, and H.R. 1 would not only cement those in place, but make things even worse. It prohibits and bans states from putting in place all of the kind of safety protocols they have for the election process. I'll give you just two quick examples. This bill would make it impossible for states, for example, to enforce their voter ID laws. It would make it impossible for states to enforce a witness signature requirement for absentee ballots. Those are just two of the safety protocols that the bill gets rid of. There are many, many more, all of which will make it, frankly, easier to cheat and easier to manipulate election results.
Sir, I'd like to get your reaction to this clip. Republican Congressman Mo Brooks from Alabama said on Thursday that if enacted into law, the bill would make the American elections resemble former Soviet Union elections. Here is Brooks.
There are dozens of provisions in this legislation that undermine the sacredness and the accuracy of the elections. And what we saw in a few places in the country in 2020 with the massive voter fraud that was occurring in those places would now become commonplace throughout the United States. In sum, the reliability, the trustworthy of American elections under H.R. 1 would be akin to those in the old Soviet Union or in Cuba or in Venezuela or North Korea. Sure, you can vote, but your vote doesn't count.
You are one of the nation's foremost experts on voter integrity. Do you agree with the congressman?
Well, I agree that it would severely damage the security of the election process throughout the country. As I said, it gets rid of all these safety protocols. It makes it almost impossible for states to actually clean up or maintain the accuracy of their voter registration rolls. And it has many other provisions like that, all of which, it seems, are intended to basically make cheating easy in the election process. I just don't understand how anyone could think this is a good bill. It's not.
Mm-hmm. You're watching pieces of legislation for hardening our electoral integrity and enfranchising legal voters, passing state legislatures. Is this the correct way to go about this process?
It is. In fact, we have states all over the country who have looked at what happened last year and are now trying to fix the vulnerabilities in their election process. They are doing the right thing. Congress is doing the wrong thing when it comes to election security.
Mm-hmm. Is Heritage Foundation pushing legislation to this end? What is the legislation that you are seeing yourself, sir, as an expert, that is really making inroads for hardening our elections and true election integrity?
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago, we released a list. It's our best practices recommendations for the states. And again, to give you a quick example, we have recommended that states not only have a voter ID law that applies to in-person voting, but it needs to apply to absentee balloting. And Georgia, for example, as I understand it, is working on a bill there that would do exactly that, extend their voter ID law from in-person to absentee balloting. That's the kind of thing that every state needs to do.
We have about 30 seconds left, but your quick take here on H.R. 1. This is something that concerns an enormous number of people, anyone who wishes for free and fair elections and enfranchised legal voters. Does this thing have a chance of passing the Senate?
It has a chance, and it's such a dangerous bill. We should all be worried about that. I'm hoping that at least one or two Democratic senators will realize how bad a bill this is, and if that doesn't happen, hopefully the Republican caucus will filibuster the bill to stop it.
Yeah, as you read the bill, it certainly looks like the Soviet Union. It looks like the end of democracy here in America. It's a scary, scary thing. Thank you so very much, sir, for joining us.
Sure, like I said, thanks for having me.